Thank you for joining us. Welcome to LumioseStation.
What's up, LumioseStation, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokemon DataDex with me, TheOneIntegral. In the last episode, we covered one of the Kalos region Pokemon introduced in Generation 6, which was Goodra, and I asked you guys which two random Pokemon you wanted to see me cover next week, which is either Spinder or Walrein, and you eventually, it was very close actually, but it came out as Walrein, so we're going to be covering Walrein this week. For next week's episode, I decided we'd do a little different. We're going to go Legendary. We haven't done Legendary in, like, ever. I'm not even sure we've done a Legendary at all. But I'll start throwing a Legendary vote in every now and again. So this week's Legendary vote is going to be Xerneas or Yveltal. So which one of the Generation 6 Legends do you want me to cover in the next week's episode? And obviously, as I said, we'll look at some more Legendaries fairly soon. Sort of, you know, you guys can vote the Legendary Dog Trio, the Bird Trio, whatever. I'll give you guys some votes and you can see what you want to actually see, I guess. If that makes any sense. Anyway, let's get started with today's episode and look at Walrein. So Walrein is number 365 in the National Pokédex and is an Ice-Water type. Not a Water-Ice type, Ice-Water. So, you know, in sort of comparison to Seal and Dugong, or at least Dugong, which is a Water-Ice type, Walrein's primary type is Ice. So bear that in mind, because it's more ice-based, I guess. It is the Ice Break Pokemon. I guess it's referring to the fact that it breaks ice with its tusks. Possibly, who knows? It stands at 4 foot 7 inches or 1.4 meters and weighs 332 pounds or 150.6 kilograms. So it's a pretty heavy Pokemon, being based obviously on a walrus, which are, you know, just looking at it, you can tell it's heavy, so generally not the ones you want to mess with, to be honest. Breeding and egg group wise, it's in the Water 1 and Field egg group, so, you know, obviously water and, you could, I guess, Walrus, you know, Walrein, Walrus is sort of land based as well, so that's where the field comes from, and the male-female split is 50-50 equal ways. Evolution chain wise, the initial form of Walrein is Feel, which will evolve into Celios starting level 32, and then further on into Walrein starting level 44, so it's sort of very similar to how we looked at Goodra last week. You know, it takes a while to get to your second evolution, 32 levels, and then it only takes 12 more to get to your final level, so you're not really a Celio for too long before you get that powerful Walrein. Base stat wise, you can see if we look on through, its highest base stat is health points at 110, so it's a bulky Pokemon straight up. Then the next highest is special attack at 95, so it can actually do a bit of decent damage. 95 isn't really too good a stat to shout about, but at least it does damage, I guess. Then we go down to defense and special defense down to 90, and then down to attack at 80, and finally speed at 65. So Walrein is certainly not the fastest Pokemon on the planet, or on the Poke Planet, who knows? But it still, you know, it's bulky basically. It's got a high health point stat, and its defense and special defense are pretty high as well. Ability wise for Walrein, there are 3 available, which are 2 basic and 1 hidden ability. His first basic ability is Thick Fat, which means it boosts resistance to fire and ice type moves, so basically, you know, you're going to take less damage from fire and ice type moves. That was obvious. So, you know, gives you 2 more resistances, not going to complain about that at all. Its second basic ability is Ice Body, which means it gradually regains health points in a hailstorm. This is useful, obviously, because we're bulky, so it's just another form of health restoration for us. However, it means we have to actually have a hailstorm going, so you either have to run someone with Snow Warning, or run someone with Hail, or indeed put Hail on your Walrein yourself. We'll look at more of this when we get to competitive sets later on. The final ability available is Oblivious, which is a hidden ability, which means it can't be infatuated or fall for taunts. Is this useful? Well, attraction and infatuation isn't too used at all in competitive. You don't see it really ever at all, or hardly ever. Falling for taunts, Walrein, I guess it does use some status moves, so falling for taunts could be helpful there, but it's not based on falling for taunts. It's not like it's gonna, you know, it's not like it's being sent in to set up hazards or set up screens like other certain support Pokemon would. Walrein can actually do some decent damage, and we'll look more of this when we get to moves and obviously the competitive sets as well. So Walrein's typing, being an Ice-Water type, it has 2 resistances, which are water and ice, so it actually resists its own types and nothing else. And then it's weak to 4 types, which are grass, electric, fighting, and rock. So it has 2 resistances, 4 weaknesses, and it takes neutral from the rest. Which isn't, it's not best typing, to be honest, okay? It's only resists 2 and it's weak to 4, and it takes neutral from a lot, so Really, it's not the best typing. However, if we factor in the fact that you can have thick fat as an ability, factor in the fact that you can have thick fat, that was just a lot of fat. Yeah, factor in that idea, that ability there, which would give us a resistance to fire. So fire would then go from neutral to resistances in terms of actual damage done, and ice would just get lowered down. Ice at the moment is, I think it takes half from ice, because I don't think ice resists ice, if I can't remember correctly. Oh no, yeah, ice does resist ice actually. So then it would take an 1/8 damage from ice type attacks. So yeah, thick fat, your Walrein is going to take no damage from ice type attacks, and it's going to have 3 resistances, 4 weaknesses, and take neutral from the rest. Weakness wise, grass, electric, fighting, rock. Rock's not too common apart from Stone Edge. So it's really grass, electric, fighting, which are the ones to look out for. Thankfully though, I mean, your defenses are really, they're good. They're not amazing, but they're good. So that's the only saving grace here for Walrein. If it had low defenses, it would be terrible. But the typing, I wouldn't give it too high a ranking, to be honest, because it is pretty bad. But what can you do, eh? What can you do? So the highlighted moves for Walrein. What moves are useful, are viable to use in the competitive spectrum with Walrein? Well, starting off with level up. First, at level 7, it can learn Encore. It's obviously when it's a Sphere, because it's a seal, so it can clap. Yeah, you know, sort of good job clapping, and that's what Encore basically is, giving them Encore. Since this will lock the opponent into the last move they use, this can be useful considering you're a bulky Pokemon. If you switch in and they happen to, you know, you're not too fast. If you were fast, it would work better. But say you switched in, say they were using a really slow Pokemon, so you were a bit faster. Say they used an Ice type attack as you came in, you can then Encore. They would be stuck inside that Ice type attack for a couple of turns, and you're going to take no damage, as we said. So, you know, that's sort of the capacity you'd use Encore in. Lock them into a move that's not going to do much damage to you, and then you can sort of set up and or force them to switch out, basically, or stay in and just deal with it. And they'll give you basically a couple free turns to do whatever you want and set up, basically. Then, at level 52 in X and Y, level 49 in Oras, or via TM14, it can learn Blizzard. Now, because we have Ice Body as one of the abilities, hopefully we want, you know, if that's around, we want a Hailstorm going at the time, just because then they will make use of that Ice Body. Blizzard in Hail has a 100% hit rate, whereas usually it doesn't have, you know, it won't hit all the time, it hasn't got as high accuracy as some moves. So, but in the Hail, it will hit all the time, so definitely you want to run Blizzard if you're going for the idea of being in a Hailstorm all the time for the health point restoration. That's what you want to go for. And that's basically, it's going to do damage, just one of your main attacking moves as well for Walrein. Moving on to the TMs. TM5 Raw, because you're bulky, you might want to get rid of any Pokemon that poses a particularly big threat to you, like, you know, something that's setting up on you, or another bulky Pokemon that might have an advantage somehow, because you can both set up and then maybe that one, you know, gains the advantage somehow. You guys get the idea. So Raw is definitely a viable choice here, just to get rid of any threats that you see coming out on the field. Then we have TM6 Toxic, because you're not going to be able to do too much damage yourself, because your attack and special attack aren't, or your special attack mainly, it's not sky high. And especially if faced up against, you know, a bulky Pokemon, you might want to go for a Toxic instead of just attacking them, and that's going to work them down faster. It will stop them really from setting up, unless they've got some counter for it like Aromatherapy, etc. But yeah, Toxic again, Toxic or Raw, both good choices. Then we have TM13 Ice Beam. If you're not going to be in a Hailstorm the whole time, you don't really want to be running Blizzard, because of the, as I said, this hasn't got 100% accuracy. So Ice Beam is a very good choice in Insectra. Instead, that's the one I'm looking for. Instead of Blizzard, you can run Ice Beam. It has a chance to freeze the enemy as well, and it hits, I think, all the time. It's not all the time, but you know, it doesn't have, you know, a low hit rate. Then TM17 we have Protect, because we're going to be bulky and we're going to be sort of a tank, and that Protect is useful because, especially if, you know, we've got leftovers, if carrying them on any set for Walrein, they're going to heal up in the background. And obviously if we're running an Ice Body set with the Hail up, it's going to give you 2 sets of health and restoration for the turn, from the leftovers and from the Hail, so that's sort of a good one there. Then we have TM90 Substitute. Again, you know, Walrein's all about being tanky and having health and restoration. If you set a Substitute up, your health's going to get dropped, but then Ice Body and leftovers are going to pull it back up again. And you know, obviously, if you have high defenses, it might take them a bit of time to actually work down that Substitute. And by the time the Substitute's gone, you've already healed it up and obviously done some more damage in the same time as well. Last but not least, we have HMO3 Surf. If you're going to be running a Water type move on Walrein, Surf is a very good choice there. just does decent damage, and yeah, not much else apart from that. Surf is a very, very solid move for Walrein. So if we look at the competitive sets of Walrein it's not too widely used. It doesn't have much sort of variation on it either. As I mentioned several times, it's bulky, it's a tanky Pokemon, that's really all you're going to be able to use it for. And there are two ways we can do this. First one is an Ice Body set, second one is a Thick Fat set. So the first one's looking at increased health and restoration, the second one's looking at more sort of just, taking less damage basically. So, first up, look at the Ice Body set. Moveset is going to be Substitute, Protect, Raw or Toxic and Blizzard. Ability is Ice Body, Nature is Bold One, held item is a Leftovers, and the EVs are maximum health points, maximum defense, and the rest in special defense. Now, like ever weather-based strategy, this has sort of been nerfed in Generation 6 thanks to the introduction of not infinite weather. So you actually have to deal with that. Was it Generation 6 or 5? I don't know. Anyway, so yes. We haven't got Hail here, you'll see. If you wanted to run Hail, if you don't have another Hailer in the team, you sort of want to have Hail instead of maybe Raw or Toxic or maybe Protect, because otherwise you're not going to be able to use your ability. So it's best to run it alongside someone that's going to have Hail on the team or a Snow Warning Pokemon on the team as well. This could be, it could be a Klefki with Hail, and an Icy Rock or whatever. So anything to actually get your weather set up for you. You can then switch into Walrein when the weather's up. Straight away you want to go for a substitute here, set the sub up, they might switch out, or it depends what Pokemon they've got at the moment, sub up, then you get double health and restoration from that, heal up about probably half of what you've actually lost from making the substitute, then you can go Protect and just sort of alternate that, Protect, Raw them if they're a bit of a threat, Toxic them if they're a bit too bulky for you, and then use Blizzard whenever you can just to get that damage off. The Hail is going to run out, so you might want to just think about going in, subbing up, doing some damage, and then switching out in the end. Because once the Hail's gone, you're not going to be as effective. So, did I go through everything else? I don't think I did. Ability Ice Body, Nature Bold, held item Leftovers, EVs maximum health points, maximum defense, and the rest in special defense. So Ice Body is your health and restoration. Bold Nature is going to increase our defense, lower our physical attack. You could run, something to increase your special defense as well. We've just gone for Bold in this case because you can go either way, to be honest. Held item Leftovers for health and restoration, EVs, maximum health points because we want all around bulk, and then you can either split them equally between the defenses or just go all in defense or all in special defense. It's up to you guys. You can either choose to focus on one type of, take a certain type of move, or you can just spread out and go for both of them and take less damage across the board. It's up to you there. But I've sort of already spoken about how you do this little set here. Yeah, you get the Hail up, you go in, sub, Protect, Raw, Toxic, Blizzard, whatever, and then when the Hail's gone, you switch back out. Really, that's sort of it. There's not much else to it, to be honest. If the Hail's not up, you want to refrain from sending him out. Obviously, you can still do it because you still have the Leftovers, but you're just going to be sort of half as effective almost in your health and restoration. So it's really something to watch out there. But if we move on to the second and the last set for Walrein, this is a Thick Fat set, as I said. So moveset this time is going to be Toxic, Ice Beam, Encore or Raw, and then Protect or Surf. Ability is going to be Thick Fat, Nature is Calm One, held item with Leftovers, EVs are going maximum health points, maximum special defense, and the rest in physical defense. So, with Thick Fat, we're going to gain extra resistances to Ice and Fire. Those are two primarily special type moves. You're going to get Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Heat Blast, not even a move, Heat Blast, but you guys get the idea. All special type moves, apart from, there are physical for each, but they're mainly special. So this is why we're going for the Calm Nature, which is going to increase our special defense and the maximum special defense in our EVs. You could, again, go spread or just go full defense if you wanted to. It's up to you. Each Walrein is going to perform a little bit differently, depending on your EV spread and your nature, but really you can't foresee what you're going to need for the battle, so you can either go for balanced or just focus on one. But this one, this particular spread has gone special defensive. Look at the moveset. Toxic is for your bulky Pokemon, just to take out. Ice Beam is there because we only use Blizzard because we're not in the Hailstorm this time. So Ice Beam is there for just a decent, a constant, decent move. It's very, very reliable, rather than Blizzard, which wouldn't be. Encore or Raw. Encore, if you can get him into an Ice type move that's going to do no damage at all, do it, because that's just going to force him to switch out basically. Or you could run Raw just to get rid of any threats if you wanted to. You could also run Raw instead of Toxic and, you know, sort of just mess around with Toxic on call Raw and different sort of combinations there. And then finally we have Protect or Surf. Protect is useful because of our leftovers. You know, you want to be protecting every other turn, possibly if you can, just to get the health and restoration. Or if you want to just go full out and just go, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do some damage, I'm going to get a bit of health and restoration, but I'm not looking to stay in battle forever, and just have Surf as another coverage move, which is going to give you a bit more sort of damage to be done. Otherwise, Ice Beam, if it's a Steel type or a Fire type or whatever, you're not going to be doing any damage, and they're just going to take you out quicker than you can take them out, basically. So, in some cases, it might be useful to switch the Surf in for the Protect. In terms of, you know, how you use the set, switch in, do damage, protect, do damage, protect, back and forth, and that'd be it. That is just it. No, that's basically it. Not much else to say apart from that, guys. But that's going to be it for this week's episode of the Pokemon DataDex. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit the like button down below. And let me know down below in the comment section which Pokemon you want to see next week. Either Xerneas or Yveltal. Which Legendary do you want to see me cover? Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me for today. If you enjoyed the episode, hit the like button down below and check out some other stuff on LumioseStation. But for now, I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.